The Galactic Council chamber had been silent for precisely 47 seconds, long enough for tension to calcify into dread. The massive, circular hall, forged of obsidian alloys and wrapped in glimmering neural-like conduits, housed delegates from over 200 star systems. They stood in solemn ranks, their robes marked with the emblems of peace, progress, and shared destiny. Above them, the vast viewport framed a living portrait of the galaxy, a swirl of stars, nebulae, and the brilliant twin cores of the Sagittarius relay burning like judgmental eyes. High Speaker Ithra, whose voice could calm or incite with equal grace, stood at the center dais, her elongated limbs motionless, her silver-hued skin catching flickers of blue from the ambient star field. She spoke without amplification. Her voice needed none. "Today," she said, "we welcome our final voice in the Accord's shared progress. Let Earth speak." From the far end of the chamber, a single figure stepped forward. Her stride was measured, her presence unmistakable. Ambassador Elena Reyes of Earth wore no ornamental symbols, no flowing robes, only the darkened threads of Earth's diplomatic uniform. Her eyes, sharp and unreadable, scanned the room as if committing every expression to memory. She was the youngest ambassador in the Council's history, and perhaps its most controversial. Reyes had earned her position not through lineage or appointment, but through force of intellect and calculated diplomacy during Earth's meteoric rise into galactic relevance. Yet she had spoken little during previous sessions, offering only brief, polite acknowledgments. Rumors said Earth was waiting, watching, deciding whether the galaxy's way was their way. Today was their answer. She reached the center of the chamber and looked not at the High Speaker, nor the assembled delegates, but at the stars. "We have reviewed the Accord," she began. Her voice was low but carried, weighted with intentional clarity. "And Earth declines, not conditionally, not deferentially. We reject the Accord in totality." The silence returned, but this time it cracked. Whispers blossomed into murmurs, and murmurs teetered on the edge of chaos. Reyes stood unmoved. High Speaker Ithra's second eyelids blinked. "Ambassador Reyes, this accord represents 8 centuries of cooperation among intelligent species. It ensures equitable sharing of technologies, prevents militarized expansion, and provides mechanisms for mutual advancement." Reyes met her gaze. "And yet," she said, "you stand on a foundation of extracted resources, forced economic harmonization, and power structures that Earth had no voice in building." A delegate from the Galactic Union, an aquatic species whose bodies shimmer with internal light, pulsed a warning tone. "You risk destabilizing the order that holds this galaxy together." "That order," Reyes replied, "was not built for us. It was built to contain us." Laughter, soft, disbelieving, broke from a representative of the Drexel Combine. "Contain you? Humanity is an infant species. You misunderstand your place." Reyes turned slowly toward him. "Do I? In a single century, we crossed a threshold from sublight obscurity to mastering quantum flux travel. We cracked biological time debt. We terraformed Venus. While others traded treaties, we built solutions. And now that we are here, this council expects obedience dressed as harmony." A tremor of alarm passed through the delegation. The High Speaker raised a hand. "Earth's progress is acknowledged, Ambassador, but peace requires participation." "Then it was never peace," Reyes answered. "Only permission." In a corner of the hall, unseen by most, Council Security Chief Var watched the exchange through narrowed eyes. He was not concerned by the words. Every species had once made dramatic speeches, but by the way Reyes held herself. She was not posturing. She was stating policy. And that meant Earth's withdrawal had not only been considered, it had been prepared. He discreetly transmitted a signal. Redundant scans of Earth's diplomatic vessel were ordered. A secondary analysis of recent human quantum traffic was initiated. He did not believe Earth had come without contingency. Ithra folded her hands. "Ambassador Reyes, if Earth isolated itself, you risk being perceived as a rogue state. The consequences have already been accepted," Reyes interrupted, "by our people, our leadership, and our military. We do not ask for war, but we will not surrender autonomy under the illusion of peace." It was a statement with the weight of finality. She bowed, turned, and walked away. Not hurriedly, not defiantly, just as one who had no more words to give. As she passed through the ring of stunned silence, the reality began to set in. One by one, delegates activated their private comms. Emergency meetings were called. Translations were checked and rechecked. Council aides retrieved long-dormant security protocols. Ithra stood rooted at the center of the storm, her mind racing with the implications. There had been dissent before, even rebellion, but never a full-scale diplomatic rejection by a civilization with Earth's strategic advantage, an unknown technological ceiling. Earth was not simply walking away. They were setting a precedent. Beyond the viewport, a supernova flickered faintly at the edge of known space, a cosmic warning lost in distance. In a shaded corridor beneath the council chamber, Reyes entered a small chamber lined with data consoles and Neuralink chairs. Two figures waited, her aides. One was Vossen, a cybernetic strategist. The other, Murray, Earth's political observer. They're in disarray, Vossen said without preamble. 5 factions already arguing internally. They'll move to contain us, Murray warned. Diplomatic, economic, military, all fronts. Reyes removed her coat, revealing a simple armband, silver with black insignia, untraceable. Let them try. Do they know about the veil? Vossen asked. They suspect, Reyes answered. But suspicion paralyzes more than certainty. Murray looked toward the chamber doors. So what now? Reyes tapped a control, and the chamber lights dimmed. A holographic map of the galaxy bloomed before them. Clusters of light representing the member systems of the Council. We do nothing, she said. Let them argue. Let them doubt. When they begin to turn on each other, then we act. She paused, her expression unreadable. We didn't come to join the future. We came to reshape it. Outside, in the chamber above, the great hall of the council began to fracture. Not physically, not yet, but politically, psychologically. Where once stood unity, doubt now reigned. And where there was doubt, there was vulnerability. Earth had spoken, and the galaxy would not be the same. Ambassador Elena Reyes stood before the Earth delegation's vessel, staring out at the blur of stars across the orbital station's transit ring. Her reflection hovered on the polished glass, a ghost in the void. Behind her, the murmurs of diplomats and strategists filled the confined command chamber. No one dared speak her name too loudly, not after the declaration she had delivered. What humanity had done at the council was not merely bold. It was unprecedented. Across every quadrant, the message repeated in translated bursts, dissected by linguists and AI. Earth refuses. Earth withdraws. Earth defies. Already, the galaxy trembled. The Council's emergency convocation began before she returned to her quarters. A broadcast summoned all systems to a closed-session deliberation. Security was doubled. Internal communication across the station was restricted. But none of it would change a message that had shattered protocol. A single species, once ignored, had stepped away from the galactic consensus with terrifying confidence. Council Security Chief Varu's voice echoed in the chamber. All access logs to the human vessel are to be reviewed. No unauthorized comms traffic in or out. I want full pulse detection sweeps around their perimeter, cloaked or otherwise. His team responded without delay. The Council had handled dissent before, but this was different. Earth had done nothing overtly hostile, no fleet, no demands. And yet, something in Reyes's final words unsettled him in a way few threats ever had. They do not ask for war. That was what she'd said. But she had not ruled it out. Inside the Council's strategic chamber, panic was only thinly veiled by protocol. Delegates clustered in shifting alliances. Some called for dialogue. Others whispered of blockades, embargoes, even military demonstrations. The Drexel Combine proposed immediate economic isolation. The Glanthi Union demanded technological sanctions. A few fringe systems suggested something darker, a preemptive strike. High Speaker Ithra did not speak at first. She listened, took in the chaos, the desperation, the fear posing as resolve. When she finally rose, silence fell. All eyes turned. "Do you believe this is a bluff?" She asked no one in particular, and yet everyone felt compelled to answer. They cannot survive alone, muttered the Zurak representative. No species has the infrastructure. They have the arrogance, countered the Drexel delegate. That may be enough to propel them for a time. Ithra raised a hand, stilling the noise. This isn't about arrogance. It's about belief. They believe they no longer need us. Her words landed like a cold truth. The chamber dimmed as planetary holographs flickered into view, Earth highlighted in silver. A dozen proposals hovered in midair, sanctions, blockades, surveillance programs, but none were actionable without unity, and unity was rapidly dissolving. In a private chamber miles below, Reyes reviewed incoming feeds. Protests had erupted in several major council line systems. Populations debated humanity's departure with fevered intensity, some denouncing it as betrayal, others praising it as liberation. The fractures were spreading faster than expected. Vossen entered quietly. Our relay stations report increased quantum fluctuations across the outer segments. Several systems are deploying early warning arrays. They think we'll attack? Reyes asked. They think they don't know, he replied, which is worse. Reyes shut off the projection. Let them wonder. Uncertainty is armor, and distraction. Murray stepped forward, datapad in hand. We're seeing ideological splintering even inside the council core. A few minor worlds are already expressing interest in a non-aligned summit. That was the first real crack. It had taken less than a day. Humanity's silence had never been emptiness. It had been intent, and now the galaxy was filling it with fear. Meanwhile, the Council's private intelligence network launched a covert inquiry. Files were reopened. Earth's technological growth was reassessed. Rumors were chased. Secret experiments, disappearances near Earth-controlled space, the enigmatic research colonies near Neptune's shadow ring. And then came the most disturbing report of all. Veil protocol is real, Varro announced at a high speaker, his voice clipped and dry. Our informants intercepted an encrypted burst from Saturn's outer moon cluster. It confirms the deployment of a localized phase cancellation grid around the Sol system. Ithra turned slowly. A cloaking field? More than that, he replied. A recursive feedback loop that can render planetary presence undetectable across most known scanning spectrums. If activated, Earth could disappear from every navigational system in the galaxy. Ithra absorbed this in silence. Varro's tone darkened. We may already be too late. By the end of the second day, entire council networks were compromised by ideological gridlock. Defense fleets received contradictory orders. Trade hubs delayed shipments out of fear of interception. Some civilian sectors speculated Earth had allied with rogue elements or even discovered relic technology from the Ascendant Age, a mythical epoch predating council formation. And still, Earth said nothing. No communiques. No clarifications. Just absence. The silence became an infection, spreading across diplomatic channels like a virus. Delegations began to question not only Earth, but each other. Were there sympathizers among them? Were spies already embedded? What did humanity know? And more importantly, how long had they known it? Late that evening, as stars wheeled silently beyond the station's great dome, Reyes watched the council broadcast in her quarters. Ithra stood at the central chamber once again, addressing not the council, but the galaxy. We do not declare war upon Earth. But let it be known, any system that follows them risks forfeiting the protections of the Accord. This is not punishment. It is containment. Reyes tilted her head. She had expected anger. But containment? That was desperation masked as control. She looked at Murray, who had remained quiet through the address. Did you record public sentiment spikes? Massive. Millions are rallying behind the idea of neutrality, she said. They're calling it the Reyes Doctrine, autonomy above alliance. Reyes laughed bitterly. They'll name it. They'll fight over it. But they won't understand it. Murray studied her. And what do you want them to understand? Reyes looked away. That freedom isn't granted by council. It's claimed by courage. Outside, across the starlit breadth of space, ships repositioned, borders stiffened, intelligence probes traced unseen paths. Some delegates clung to order, others prepared for rupture. And in a single room aboard the Earth diplomatic vessel, Reyes adjusted the small metal band on her wrist. It pulsed once and again. The veil was ready. She turned off the lights and stepped into the dark, knowing the galaxy had just crossed a threshold it would never return from. The darkness above Earth was no longer merely space. It was a message. The veil had activated. From the outer edges of Sol's influence, deep space monitoring stations belonging to the Council detected an abrupt silence. One by one, sensor threads snapped. Probes blinked out. The entire solar system faded from every gravitational, electromagnetic, and quantum register. It hadn't moved. It hadn't cloaked conventionally. It had simply vanished from the galaxy's perception. Within the Council's central command ring, panic surged like plasma through a broken containment field. Delegates pored over data streams, arguing, theorizing, accusing. High Speaker Ithra stood impassive in the center, surrounded by a storm of noise. Her second heart beat faster than it had in decades. How can they do this? A representative from the Triarch world demanded, his 3 vocal tracks harmonizing with rising alarm. This technology, this veil, is beyond known limits. They breached cognitive event masking, another delegate muttered. Not just cloaking, this is strategic negation. Impossible, someone hissed. They're a child race. Ithra raised her voice, not loud, but sharp. Then, perhaps we've underestimated the children. The chamber dimmed as a full galactic projection flared into view. A stark void pulsed where Earth had once glowed. The Sol system was a blank spot. Not absent, worse. Ignored by the very laws of detection. Ithra turned to Varu, who stood to her left with arms folded behind his back. Options? Limited, he replied. We cannot track them, cannot intercept them. The only intelligence that remains is historic. We are effectively blind. And their capabilities? He hesitated, uncertain. If they've massed an entire system, then other technologies, offensive or otherwise, may have reached similarly advanced thresholds. We are not equipped to measure what we cannot observe. In the silence that followed, one reality became increasingly clear. Earth had done what no species had ever dared. They had disappeared by choice. And in doing so, they had revealed just how vulnerable the rest of the galaxy truly was. Far from the Council station, hidden in the dark between systems, Reyes sat inside a long-range interceptor cloaked beneath the field's edge. The ship thrummed with silent intent. Around her, the neural interface hummed with data, news, reactions, chaos. The Council was fragmenting. Vossen stood beside her, his artificial eye flickering with streams of intercepted communication. Multiple systems are decoupling from Council operations. Supply lines are fraying. Trade routes are now targets. Reyes remained still, and the neutrals? Forming clusters. Not organized, not yet, but they're watching, waiting to see what Earth does next. Murray entered from the side corridor, carrying a datapad. Latest analysis from our outer research node. They confirmed it. Our disappearance triggered exponential fragmentation. 10 systems declared neutrality in the past 4 hours. 2 have severed Council ties outright. A moment passed before Reyes responded. It won't be enough to vanish. We'll need to give them something else. Hope. Murray offered. No, Reyes said. Opportunity. She stood, crossing the command deck. The walls shimmered with soft projections. Memory maps of the Council, of Earth's diplomatic failures, of the long history of submission cloaked in civility. The Accord had always promised peace, but only under the condition of participation. Those who did not comply were marginalized. Earth had seen the truth early. They had simply waited long enough to act. We send out the signal, she said finally. Vossen turned. A broadcast. A message, Reyes clarified, to all neutral systems. We won't ask them to choose. We'll show them another path. What if they fear retribution? Murray asked. They already do, she said. That's why they're hesitating. But if we build a network, light years wide, untraceable, they won't be alone, and fear fades when shared. Back at the Council stronghold, high-speaker Ithra convened a new chamber, this one smaller, darker, and far older. The Crisis Hall, sealed for centuries, now thrummed with long dormant machinery. Only 12 entered, the heads of the council's most powerful factions. The speaker addressed them with none of her usual poetry. We must consider scenarios we were not prepared to face. The Glanty delegate narrowed his gaze. You're suggesting what? Mobilization? Not yet, Ithra replied. But Earth has made a strategic move designed to fracture, not dominate. They know our politics. They know our fears. That is not accident. It is design. The Drexel Combine's matron, whose species once thrived on calculated preemption, rasped a chilling possibility. Perhaps we were not their target. Perhaps we were the audience. That line hung in the air longer than anyone wished to admit. Ithra finally broke the silence. If Earth unites even a fraction of our fringe systems, the Council as we know it collapses. They're not just declaring independence. They are proving it's survivable. The silence was broken only by the hum of ancient circuits. Far beyond, Reyes stood before a transmission panel on the Earth vessel. Her face was calm, her voice unwavering. The message was short, encoded with quantum fragmentation that allowed only neutral receivers to access it. No Council-aligned frequencies would detect it. This is Ambassador Reyes of Earth. To those who choose not to choose, we see you. We know the burden of silence. We know the price of compliance. Earth has stepped away, not in defiance, but in pursuit of dignity. If you seek the same, you are not alone. Join us not as subjects, but as equals. The path ahead will not be safe, but it will be free. She closed the message and sent it. In a matter of hours, distant stations and unaligned systems blinked with the transmission's arrival. First came curiosity, then questions, then hope. Inside the council chambers, more reports arrived. Minor systems withdrawing diplomatic staff. Trade federations requesting renegotiations outside of council jurisdiction. Even whispers that the Terran message was being rebroadcast by sympathetic rogue nodes. Reyes sat back in her chair, exhausted but composed. Around her, the crew worked with silent efficiency. They had trained for this, prepared for this. A galaxy too long governed by tradition would not fall in a day, but the first crack had already widened into a fracture. Outside her viewport, the stars remained fixed, but the order between them was shifting. Lines redrawn, loyalties reconsidered. It wasn't war, not yet, but something deeper had begun, something slower, and far harder to contain. Somewhere in the quiet void between stars, aboard a mobile relay drifting just outside the border of unaligned space, Ambassador Elena Reyes watched a revolution take form. Not in fire, but in declarations, in silence broken by courage. The map projected before her flickered with new signals. Fringe colonies dissolving their ties to Galactic Council, isolated trade hubs now identifying themselves as autonomous, and one by one, independent broadcasts of Earth's message lighting up the void like constellations newly born. The galaxy was reconfiguring itself, but not without resistance. Council fleet has repositioned along Sector Verge 12, Vossen reported, standing beside the tactical map. They're deploying observation drones along what used to be known as the Drift Corridor. Looks like a containment posture. No formal aggression yet. Reyes' eyes narrowed. They're building a net, not to catch us, but to prevent the idea from spreading. It's not working, Murray added, approaching with another pad. 17 more systems have adopted provisional neutrality in the last 36 hours. For our broadcasting openly. That's nearly a fifth of the outer rim. Reyes walked closer to the map, tracing a line through the neutral systems with her finger. And how many have formally aligned with us? None, Murray replied, her voice tinged with caution. They're afraid. They still think they need the council to survive. Not survive, Reyes said. To be seen. It was the oldest lie the council told. Recognition through allegiance. Legitimacy as a product of compliance. For decades, Earth had endured that lie. Now, they were daring to live outside it. But even Reyes' new ideas alone weren't enough. Autonomy required protection. Belief needed defense. The ascendant signal? She asked. Vossen nodded. Final phase of testing completed last cycle. Portable nodes are functioning. Transmission strength at expected levels. And the fail-safes? Triple encoded. Distributed across non-aligned satellites. The Council won't be able to trace the source. Reyes exhaled slowly. Then it's time. The ascendant signal was never a weapon, not in the traditional sense. It was knowledge, a beacon, a multidimensional resonance algorithm containing records, technologies, and the data humanity had compiled beyond Council scrutiny, buried in deep space archives, discovered in forbidden ruins, extracted from relics that most species deem myth. It was, in truth, the reason the veil had worked. And now, it would be the reason others might follow. Later, aboard the Earth flagship anchored in the Veil's edge orbit, Reyes addressed the gathered command team. Murray stood to her left, Voss to her right, with dozens of officers and coordinators linked in via encrypted stream. Every word Reyes spoke now would be remembered, not because of who she was, but because of what was finally beginning. They will call us dangerous, she began. Unpredictable, irresponsible, and perhaps we are. We are dangerous to their order. We are unpredictable in the face of their expectations. And we are deeply, absolutely unwilling to remain obedient. Her voice held no anger, only clarity. For too long, the galaxy had confused peace with silence, harmony with hierarchy. They wrote the rules, then told us we were free. But we were never free. We were managed, observed, graded. The officers did not move, yet the air around them charged with conviction. We don't seek war. We never did. But we will not trade safety for servitude. If they come for us, we will not hide. If they threaten those who wish to walk beside us, we will shield them. We will carry no flag but our own, but we will defend the right of any world to raise theirs. The speech ended with no applause. There was none needed. Those who heard it had already made their decision. Far across space inside the core council compound, High Speaker Ithra received a message not from an official source, but via an intercepted sub-channel. The broadcast had been broken into a dozen pieces, scattered and decoded, but its essence could not be distorted. Ithra listened in silence, the gravity of the moment pressing against her like a tide. She could no longer hold back. "Deploy the deterrents," she said finally. Varu, who had stood quietly nearby, frowned. "You mean the protocols?" Ithra nodded. The outer accord was built on balance. If Earth collapses at balance, everything falls. We must demonstrate consequences, not destruction, visibility. Even Varu paused at the way of that word. They both understood what it meant, a targeted strike. Not on Earth. They could no longer locate it, but on one of the systems now aligned in thought, if not in name, a message made from ruin. Within the day, ships departed from 3 strategic locations. They bore no flags, no names, only purpose. But Earth had already prepared. The relay station in orbit around the neutral moon of Indros Prime picked up the first sign, a gravity ripple, too sharp for natural phenomena. Then the signal spike, a surge of quantum displacement, a ship jumping from a location outside map space. But what emerged was not Council. It was Earth. A Terran Guardian-class destroyer, cloaked in a phasic shimmer, intercepted the Council stealth ship just as it activated its offensive charge. No words were exchanged. No negotiation attempted. Earth had given its warning. The encounter lasted 90 seconds. The Council ship was disabled, its systems fried by a precision electromagnetic cascade. Not destroyed, deliberately left floating, powerless, as a message of its own. Reyes watched the transmission from the field relay with silent satisfaction. "Did they survive?" she asked. "Yes," Vossen confirmed. "Crew status stable. We transmitted a recovery beacon. Council knows we saw them, knows we stopped them, and knows we let them go." Reyes nodded. "Then the line is drawn." Across the next week, the shape of the galaxy changed faster than any cycle prior. Earth's influence grew not through force, but through demonstration. Worlds long ignored found voice. Systems too small for Council attention began coordinating. Trade routes shifted, Communications webs rewove themselves, and in the center of it all was an idea older than any empire. Freedom earned, not granted. In the quiet of her quarters, Rhea sat alone, watching a star chart animate the spread of the movement, dots of light growing, connecting, turning absence into presence. She did not smile. There was too much ahead for celebration, but her eyes held something fiercer. Conviction, because this was no longer about Earth. It was about choice, about sovereignty, about a galaxy that, for the first time in 1,000 cycles, might just remember that unity and obedience were not the same. And far in the dark, beyond every sensor, the veil shimmered, holding the heart of a defiant world, hidden and waiting. The final game had begun.